This week, the World Food Program paused aid deliveries to northern Gaza due to security concerns. Aid organizations say there is an urgent need for more routes to be opened up to help prevent starvation and disease. Joining me now to discuss this is Dalia Al Awqati, the head of humanitarian affairs at Save the Children. Dalia, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Roger.
We are hearing some horrible reports about the situation for Gazan residents, that they're now eating weeds that are growing on the side of the road.
Absolutely. The conditions there are really horrific. We have 1.1 million children in Gaza who are at risk of death by starvation. The food poverty across Gaza is at incredibly high levels. I mean, not just high for Gaza, but actually at some of the highest levels we've seen globally. And the reality is that the use of starvation as a method of warfare is prohibited under international humanitarian law. And we continue to see disruptions. Well, actually, we continue to see minimal aid going into Gaza, and that aid being food aid, being medical aid, and all items that are essential to life. And so the situation for civilians is just absolutely horrific, with really people dying every day now as a result of hunger, as a result of malnutrition, starvation, dehydration.
Now, when you hear the talk of a possible ceasefire, do you believe it, or are you waiting to see?
Very cautious. I mean, we certainly have to see, but the reality is parties to a conflict have a responsibility to ensure basic life-saving items reach the populations that they are covering, the populations that they are responsible for, and that is the civilians in Gaza. So the government of Israel has controlled and continues to control the air, land, and water routes and territories in and around Gaza, meaning they have a responsibility to ensure that aid that is trying to be delivered actually does get to the people that need it, and that aid agencies such as ourselves are able to deliver that assistance to these populations wherever they are in Gaza. And that is something that we and other humanitarian organizations have consistently struggled with, especially since the 7th of October.
If there is a ceasefire, would you be able to get enough aid in quickly to prevent more deaths, or is this turning into an absolute catastrophic crisis?
It is at a point that it's catastrophic. The reality is we need a permanent ceasefire to be able to function. We need the conditions to be able to exist for aid delivery. And, ceasefire has to be coupled with an increase in the aid routes that are available, and an ability for that aid to move. So we know that for northern Gaza, only 50% of the aid or the aid convoys that were requested were actually approved during the month of February. And so ensuring that the conditions exist, but also ensuring that the bureaucratic elements also allow for aid delivery are absolutely critical to making sure that people really get their needs, such as food, such as water, such as medical assistance. So certainly hopeful that there will be a ceasefire, and definitely with the presence of a ceasefire or with an absence of a ceasefire, really reiterating that there is a responsibility for humanitarian agencies to be delivering that aid, and for the authorities to be able to allow us actually to fulfill our mandates as well.
Okay, Dalia, thank you very much for your time today. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.